In 2003, my father was diagnosed with a bunch of different things. And how it started was I was living in Dallas, Texas at the time, and my phone rang at my office. I picked up the phone, and it was my dad. And he didn't sound like he usually sounds. He's one of the most optimistic, upbeat, positive people that you would ever meet. And he said to me, "Hey, you sitting down? Do you have some time to talk?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." And he was coming to visit my brother and I, and we were going to have a golf weekend the next weekend. And he said to us, he goes, "I'm not coming next week." He goes, "I just went to the doctor, and they gave me some interesting news." He said, "Basically, I have heart disease." I said, "Okay." I said, "So, first thing that comes to my mind, well, bypass stent, something like that." And he goes, "No, it's different." He goes, "It's a different type of heart disease. It's a rare heart disease where there's a bunch of minor blockages in different arteries and so forth, and there's nothing that they can do, no bypass, no stent. It's too small, too tight of an area." And at that time, he was also 100 pounds overweight. He was diabetic for several years at that time. And I said to him, I said, "It's okay, we'll figure something out. I'm not a person that accepts no. I just don't accept no." And so he said, "They told me not to get on the plane. They told me not to come and visit you. And they said I've got to, I can't really play golf." They basically diagnosed him a cardiac cripple at that time. And it was devastating to the family. And about 6 months later, he called me with some other news. He was diagnosed with leukemia. So here he's 100 pounds overweight or so, has diabetes, gets diagnosed with heart disease, and then this leukemia news was like the final nail in the coffin for him. So he was, his mentality of being the most optimistic, positive person in the world was completely gone. And it's not the way that he raised me or taught me to be. So I said, "Okay, we're going to start looking." And by the, as I call it, divine intervention, I guess, we met Dr. Zugan. And we were introduced through Dr. Zugan through a physician in Cleveland that we had a relationship with. And Dr. Zugan was scared. He did not want to take my father on because he just started at that time treating a lot of American patients, even though he's been treating many patients with this for a long time, especially within cancer therapy and so forth and in his country. But my father was a very sensitive case because a pretty well-known major hospital in the United States told my father that he had probably 24 months till he would suffer a major heart attack or stroke, and then hopefully he would survive through it. So we begged and pleaded, and we told Dr. Zugan, "It's okay, whatever happens, happens, we have no other option." So he began the therapy in 2003, about the end of 2003. And he was in Cleveland, I was in Dallas at the time. He calls me up about a week later and goes, "Guess what?" He goes, "I'm feeling a little bit different." He goes, "I'm not falling asleep in front of the television as much anymore." So I said, "Okay. Well, that's good," me being skeptical or just trying to be open-minded or optimistic about it. And then he'd call me another week later and say, "You know what? I feel like I want to walk around. I feel like I want to go play golf." And I'm like, "Well, take it easy, take it slow." And then about 6 months later, he called me and he goes, "I lost 10 pounds. He goes, "I'm moving around a little bit better." He goes, "I went and saw my cardiologist, and, everyone was being really optimistic, and they told me, 'Well, Jimmy, just keep doing what you're doing.'" And then as time went on, he just kept getting better and better and better and better. And people just would come up to him as he started having his vitality back, his optimistic self, and he started talking differently. And we had about a 6-month period where it was all doom and gloom, and he was saying his goodbyes and preparing things, and just totally different than he's been his entire life. And I would say about 2 or 3 years later, he was down about 75 pounds at that time. I went to a world-renowned cardiologist who's his cardiologist, and they said to us, you know what, the blood flow seems to be coming back. His heart seems to be performing better. And so they did a second catheterization on him, and we did an A-B comparison of his two catheterizations, and it was completely obvious to the cardiologist and to our physicians that his blood flow had vastly improved. And we went to his oncologist, and white blood cell counts typically don't go down in his type of leukemia, but his white blood cell counts have continued to stay stagnant or go down over time. But that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is he got his life back from the standpoint of he's back to the person he was. He's back to the person that raised me, and we're just very, very grateful. And I know that this program and Dr. Zugin's science, without a doubt, is the reason why my father's still here.
Zugin Physiologic. Optimize health, optimize life.